August, but Donald Trump was very clear that that was more useful to him than appearing in that debate. Well, let's talk about this with Erol Morkoc. He's a Republican overseas spokesman. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Julia. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. There's no doubt at all that Donald Trump knows how to handle these things. If he'd stood on a stage with 8 other candidates, he'd just be one of them. He'd be the target. In this way, he kind of just made all the attention go on him as opposed to those 8 candidates. Let's have a little watch and a listen of what he had to say to Tucker Carlson about why he decided to opt out of that first Republican primary debate.
You see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, you know, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that?
Fascinating, the idea that these are other people who shouldn't be running for president. Errol, what did you make of that decision?
Well, ultimately, it was a very smart strategy from President Trump because, as he said, he's going to get up there. He's going to be the target of everybody's attacks, perhaps with the exception of Vivek. And he's already leading by such a, unsurmountable lead in the polls. If you look just at the GOP primary, not at the general election, obviously, that there's also the sidebar of him kind of being able to stick it to the establishment, because without having to look, I can guarantee you that more people will end up watching the Trump-Tucker interview than that debate. So, he was able to highlight, I'll be honest, I'm a Trump supporter. It wasn't the greatest interview. It was a little bit bog standard, a little bit lifeless in some ways. But
it was very soft.
Yes, I agree. It was very soft, and Tucker's a friend of the family, we can say, to some degree. But he did, touch on his main point being that the border would be something that he is going to focus on securing, and he did bring up campaign points. He mentioned that Mike Pence was basically a conveyor belt without having any checks and balances, and of course he's the only person who still believes in some of the controversy, but he's also the person who's being arrested and arraigned in a courtroom today for
but that's the thing, that's more headlines, and we know that always puts him up in the polls as well. Listen to what Donald Trump had to say in that interview with Tucker Carlson about the Democrats, and in particular about if he does become the Republican candidate, the sitting President Joe Biden, who he would be running against.
We have a president that can't put 2 sentences together, can't speak, can't walk, can't talk. I don't think he gets to the starting gate, but these people do miracles. He ran out of his basement, and you got away with that one because of COVID, so he sort of got away with it. They cheated on the election. But you have people that are very smart, but they're fascists, and they're radical left lunatics, and they're destroying our country.
This is the stuff that his supporters will absolutely be lapping up. What do you make of those comments, Errol?
Well, when it comes to just the obvious optics, Joe Biden looks like he's walking on toothpicks every time. When you watch a speech, you're sort of waiting for the jumbled up, invented English that he comes up with. He's somebody who's struggling mentally and physically. He certainly isn't somebody who projects a presidential aura of power. Definitely Donald Trump is correct in castigating these obvious flaws. Whether or not he will actually make it to the gate, though, I think that despite the fact that he could be pushed aside by somebody like Gavin Newsom, who Trump said in that interview he actually gets along well with, I still think Joe Biden very much could be this candidate, and so does President Trump, and it would be very bizarre to have that same rematch. However, if Donald Trump is seeing it like this, and he's being so calm in describing it, you have to imagine how the middle America voter is looking at President Biden, how frustrated they are as they see their 401ks, they see, the school systems and the drug overdose, the whole negative decline of the country for the last 2 years. At the same time, you have this very cavalier guy eating ice cream, showing up 2 weeks late to the fires in Maui, sending billions of dollars overseas. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look presidential.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It was interesting. Another clip we did have, actually, it's a bit too long to play right now, but Vivek Ramaswamy, one of the candidates, the 8 Republican rivals bidding to get that nomination, or possibly getting the vice presidential nomination with Donald Trump, was defending Donald Trump, saying that, he was the greatest president of the 21st century, and it makes you wonder why he's running himself, really, given that he wants to go again. In terms of what actually happened, though, Ron DeSantis, one of the big names, Mike Pence, former vice president, got Chris Christie, Nikki Haley, and Vivek Ramaswamy Ramaswamy, who's very much seen on the right of the party, this sort of young businessman, running a few other people, frankly, I don't think anyone's ever heard of, even their own families. Was there a takeaway? Any of those candidates stood out for you yesterday?
Oh, absolutely. Vivek, I believe, just demonstrably dominated the campaign, the debate. I mean, he was fun. He was energetic. He had an immigrant story. He was an innovator. They tried to put him down for not being a long-term career politician. And he's like, do you want to elect a super PAC or do you want to elect an individual? I mean, I think he crushed it. I think he's made separation between himself and Ron DeSantis, which, DeSantis didn't perform poorly, but didn't really win himself any points there. Chris Christie has no chance and is an absolute clown who's embarrassing himself for the party. And then on the other side of it, you have a situation where the rest of the candidates, even if they did a good job, they don't have the statistical viability to even be relevant. I mean, Governor Scott was kind of impressive, but he's not going to win with a very right wing.
But that's the thing, that a lot of these candidates, they're just vying for some notoriety. They know nothing's going to come of it. But that said, it's very early days. Lots can change. We think where we were in the 2016 election cycle, all those years ago, things were very different then. Great to talk to you, Erol Morkoc. He's a Republican overseas spokesman. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on that. Right now, let's